right, everybody, welcome to a more excellent conversation. Thank you guys for tuning in. Today, we're going to talk about college, specifically my testimony on how I was able to cash flow my college experience. So let's get into it. Guys, throughout my college experience, it took me 6 years to finish my undergraduate degree. I got a BA in psychology, a bachelor's of art in psychology. Throughout my college experience, I went part-time. There were times I went full-time. I took a semester off only because I couldn't afford it during that semester. But ultimately, I was able to cash flow my entire college experience. So my first semester, my parents actually supported me through the first semester of college, which was about $3,000. But ironically, that was the semester where my grades were the lowest. I wasn't really focused on school at all. I kind of was just going through the motions, going to class and not really caring about what grades I got, not really trying or applying myself to my fullest. However, when my parents were no longer supporting me through college, besides providing housing, my parents struck a deal with me after they paid the first semester of college for me that I would be able to stay in their home rent-free as long as I was paying for my own schooling. So we had that agreement going on, so I didn't have to juggle rent and school at the same time like some people might have to do. So I was blessed in that area, but I still had to come up with the $3,000 or $6,000 a year, $3,000 every semester, $6,000 a year. And at the time I was going, each class was roughly $1,000. So I was able to get on a payment plan with the college. So I did two different options while I was going to school. It's either I paid it in full at the end of the year, or I went through a payment plan and was paying every 2 weeks, right? So every 2 weeks, I would either pay $500 to $600, which would end up to $1,200 during the month or $1,000 during the month, basically paying off one class per month. Or I would just go through the 3 months, save my money up, and then pay in full the $3,000 I had to pay. I was working either arranged for me to 2 to 3 jobs at the time. I was an after-school group leader. I also worked at Whole Foods, as well as I was recording a basketball league at the time. And with those 3 income streams, I was able to pay off my college throughout the 6 years. It was a struggle to pay them off in general. Like there were some semesters where I wasn't able to fully pay off the college in full. So I either had to take a semester off, or I could only afford to take 2 classes during a semester. But all those things were a means to an end. At least I was able to afford it. I didn't go out of my pocket taking out money that I didn't have to pay for an education that I couldn't afford. So I really lived within the means that I had with the situation and the circumstances I had at the time. And yeah, it was tough. I was a little bit older when I graduated than most of the graduates. I was about 24, while everyone else was 21, 22. I was older than some of my classmates, but since I went to a CUNY school, which is a city school, city university, their tuition is much lower than like a state university or a private university. Those universities tend to cost a lot more per semester. So like I said before, my college tuition was about $6,000 to $7,000 a year. And that was very affordable at the time with the 3 income streams that I had coming in. So if you have a dream of going to college and you really feel like you have a calling, or you feel called, or you feel led to get this degree, or you feel really passionate about this degree, suggest that you think about cash flowing. I also found some different tips and tricks in order to save money. As I was going through this process, I was able to get some books online. Usually I would do a little bit of research, literally just type the name of the book online, see if I could get it in like a Kindle version, an ebook version. Usually those are cheaper. Or I would always look for a used textbook if I was able to go. Or I would go to the library in my school to see if they had the book, and you can take it out of the library for an X amount of days. And I was able to study it from there. I also always asked the professor if they knew any way I could get the book for a discounted price. I talked to like colleagues and classmates like, oh, do you have this book? Like, either can I borrow it? And I would take pictures of the pages that I had to do in order to save money so that I could fully pay for the school. So there's a lot of neat tips and tricks you can get around and cutting costs on savings. There were some professors who were like, I would say they were colluding, right? I would say some of them wrote the books and they were using the books that they co-wrote or co-signed or getting proceeds off of, and we had to use them for the class. And so those books had to be new. And I still kind of found ways around it, trying to get an ebook of some sort or asking my classmates if I could take a picture of the pages that we needed for the upcoming week. And that's why it's really good to build relationships while you're going to college. I feel like if college taught me anything, it's how to communicate with others and how to really build relationships that last and you guys can work together in order to succeed. So I would say go for that. I also realized really late in the game, during COVID, I had heard from a friend that at least in CUNY, or at the time in CUNY, this was like 2020, 2021, 2022. At the time, if you took more than 4 classes, if you were full-time, the classes you took after that 4-class load were free. So there was one semester where I was able to take 6 classes during COVID in order to make up for the semesters that I went part-time, where I took either 3 classes or 2 classes because I couldn't afford to pay for the full, to be full-time at the time. So I made it up my last few semesters. I think that last year I took 5 classes and then 6 classes, but I only paid for 4 classes. So I only paid that $6,000-7,000 range throughout the year. In total, I paid about $30,000 for my degree and was able to cash flow it within those 6 years. But I really went at my own pace. And I feel like a lot of the times college is rushed. Like, you need to know what you want to do. You need to know how you're going to do it. You need to know what department you're going to be in. You need to know what job you're going to get after. And if you're not going on this timeline, if you don't graduate by 22, you're not getting your master's by 24, then you're a failure in life. And I completely disagree, because not only my personal experience, but I've heard from others. I have a friend who got his master's at like 27. Now he's in his career at 30. My mom, she has 3 degrees. She finished 1 bachelor's in her 40s, another bachelor, her master's, I think, in her 50s, and then another bachelor's at the end of her 50s as well. So it's like the time frame that people give us, it's really make believe at the end of the day. Like, you go at your own time, it's not always gonna fit into this plan or this framework that you have set aside. Like, you can move slowly and surely and go at what pace you can afford, right? So if you ever feel like, oh, I really want to go back to school, or I really want to get this degree, but I don't know how to go about it, you can use some of these tips.